Hey, Daddy, this is the man of the champions, Bill Fonzie Alfonso, giving a shout out to something else. Something else, Daddy.
This is Nicole Matata, Great Warrior Wolf, and you are listening to Something Else.
I'm Tony Cini, and you're listening to Something Else.
Hey everybody, it's Rich Palladino, the voice of New England, and you are listening to Something Else with Arya.
And welcome to episode number 183 of Something Else. Feast your ear holes on this week's episode as we take a look at Mid-South Wrestling and World Class Championship Wrestling from April 7th, 1984. My name is Arya, and joining me, as always, is the John King to my Bob Owens. It's Trae. Trae, how the hell are you today?
My tummy hurts and I'm mad at the government.
So we were originally going to record the show last night, but you had a
Yeah,
bit of stomach pain and we had to push it back. How's your stomach doing? How you feeling?
it's not as bad. I think it was a combination of there's a little bit of a bug that my wife also had, and then I think I had that bug, and then on top of that, I have a medication that one of the side effects is stomach pain and nausea, and they upped my dosage this week. So I think that's probably what happened. But yeah, I felt bad because we were gonna do the show last night, but I felt like I was gonna fucking die. I had to go
Hey,
lay down.
it's all good in the hood, you know? Um, this is so we've gone from me having to record 6 shows in 5 days to now having to record 6 shows in 4 days. So come Tuesday, I'm going to be blaming you for everything because that'll be
Uh,
when we finally record the sixth show I got to record this week.
I'm
Because yeah, thanks
sorry.
to my Trek 2 points at sign WrestleMania, which is this Wednesday that I'm heading out the door. We're recording the next 2 weeks of shows in advance, which was a great idea until I started watching some of these. But hey, the good news is I got done almost everything. I still have to watch next week's Smoky Mountain. But so spoiler alert, if there's ever a show that Trey and I do that ends up less than an hour, it's going to be this show. This is the most nothing happening episode of Mid South ever, followed by World Class, which we typically get done in about 20 minutes. And I'm not predicting it to go much longer than that, but I guess we'll see.
This Mid South
Um,
show, though, this Mid South show is I felt a much stronger wrestling show than we usually get. But it's just we're not gonna have as much to talk about because all we really have to talk about is yeah, this match was like good. There weren't a
yeah,
lot of there wasn't a lot of
there
audio
weren't a lot of
that
angles. There's not a lot of,
yeah.
there's no promos actually. Well, we have an intro from Jim Cornette because the Midnight Express are wrestling. That is literally it. And you know the reason why, right?
Why?
Th this show is essentially
Oh,
head to head with the
Superdome.
Superdome. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah,
like
Superdome.
this this show airs in New Orleans at 5 p.m. The Superdome show starts at like 7. So anybody who was going to go to the show is not sitting at home watching the TV show. And even though Mid-South does air places other than New Orleans, this is if there was ever a week to throw in the towel, it was this week. So here we go. And I'm not sure if why they didn't just like air like, I don't say a highlight show. I mean, I'll say it. I don't know why they didn't just air a highlight show. It might be, and I know Memphis back in the day, they had a deal with the WMC, the TV station, that they could only run two highlight shows during the year, and they always save those for the last two episodes of the year. Um, so Mid-South might have something similar with the TV networks they're on.
You know what this was? This was a Tony Khan special, the collision the night of WrestleMania, where it's just like, look, whoever's watching this, you're some sick fucks. Here's some wrestling. This is what this show was.
I thought you were going to call it Rampage.
You know, almost, but it didn't quite work because WrestleMania is not on Friday.
Not yet, anyway. Although they have
Oh God.
WrestleMania SmackDown, how it's either SmackDown WrestleMania or WrestleMania SmackDown, where they do the Andre the Giant Battle Royal.
Yeah,
And
that's
as much of a
lame.
mark I am for Battle Royals, I'm not going to SmackDown just to watch a fucking Battle Royal. Um,
Yeah, like that should why can't that be on the fucking WrestleMania pre-show?
did you see? And I guess I got the email from Peacock today that confirms this. The pre-show for both nights of WrestleMania is 3 hours long. It starts at
And there's
it
gonna
starts yeah, and there's no matches.
yeah,
That
there's
I
gonna be
guess that could
nothing.
change. They could announce that like, oh, we're gonna have one match and it comes on at 6:30 or something. But as of right now, it's 3 hours of pre-show, which is just going to be talking heads, and then a 4 hour WrestleMania, and then what's penciled in at the moment as a 2 hour post-show both nights. I cannot
That's
imagine.
horrific.
Yeah, I cannot imagine anybody doing that. Like I guess I can understand the thought process because this is the WWE's version of the Super Bowl. And the Super Bowl, the pre-show starts at noon for a game that starts at 6:30. And then they do post-show with the awards and the trophies, and that usually goes like an hour. So you usually get about 11 hours of programming, 10 and a half to 11 hours of programming for the Super Bowl. I can almost see that's their logic. Well, the NFL does it. Why can't we do it? It's like because I'm sorry, like WrestleMania is great, but if I wasn't going to WrestleMania, I would not be sitting here in front of my television at 4 o'clock watching the 3 hour pre-show. To make it even funnier, my bus to go to WrestleMania leaves at 2 p.m. Pacific both days, which is 5 p.m. Eastern, meaning an hour into the pre-show. That's when we leave to go to WrestleMania.
Well, the pre-show is not for the people who are in the building. I'm
No,
not defending it. I don't fucking
no,
care about the pre-show. I don't, whatever.
yeah. It is what it is. And I don't even know when the hell they're going to open up the gates because usually they don't open up the gates until an hour before the matches start. So I guess we'll see.
People, you
Yeah.
have to understand, sometimes we're not actually disagreeing with each other. We
Yeah.
just both like to poke at each other.
Oh, yeah. I didn't think we were poking at each other there. I just think we were stating our
Yeah.
our same opinion essentially about
Yeah.
this. By the way, if I had gotten a media pass, my ass would definitely be at the post show, but I didn't, so I'm not. Um,
Huh.
so we're a year away from WrestleMania being back in New Orleans. So for now, let's go to New Orleans. I guess we're not in New Orleans. We're in Shreveport. So what the hell am I talking about? Let's go to Shreveport for Mid-South Wrestling with we'll play one of two pieces of audio we have from this show in the intro with Boyd Pierce and Jim Ross.
Hello, wrestling fans, and welcome to this week's edition of Mid-South Wrestling Television. I'm your host, Boyd Pierce, and a lot of exciting action. It'll be headlined by a tag team match between the sensational Rock and Roll Express, Ricky Martin and Robert Gibson, versus Hacksaw Butch Reed and Nature Boy Buddy Landell. The arrogant manager, he's very confident. Jim Cornette is here along with his team of the Midnight Express. Hacksaw Jim Dugan takes on the Russian Invader. We have lots of great action this week, and to tell you about it, the associate of Cowboy Bill Watts from Bixby, Oklahoma, the golden-throated Jim Ross. Jim?
Boyd, thank you very much. Grizzly Smith has got a great lineup of matches, and without any further ado, let's go to Reeser Bowden in the ring.
Okay. Do you ever think it's funny the way Boyd Pierce always calls Jim Ross the associate of Bill Watts?
I, I never really noticed it until has he done it before? Because I noticed it here, but I don't know, I don't remember noticing it before.
He usually does, and it's like I don't know, maybe it's not supposed to actually be like this, but it kind of feels like a jab, like I know you're coming for my job, and this is my subtle way of trying to knock you down a peg or something, like to
I
kind of
mean,
tell the crowd, hey, he's here because he's a friend of the president of the company.
yeah, well, he's not wrong, is he?
It works as well for him as it does for Tony Schiavone in '89.
Yeah.
Um, so the very confident manager of the Midnight Express, Jim Cornette's going to be here. That's like the nicest thing I've ever heard anybody say about him on this show. The very confident manager.
You can't say the man lacks confidence, that's for sure.
Indeed. In frickin' deed. So we go to the first match. It is the North American champion, Mr. Wrestling, versus Joe Savoldi. And if you recall last week, Mr. Wrestling dropped the two because he's just Mr. Wrestling now. And I wrote, I'm surprised Savoldi's still here. I didn't think he was here for very long. I just thought he was going to be in for a couple shots, but he's still here. And wrestling wins with a knee lift in a match that was longer than all of last week's wrestling put together.
Joseph Odie's pretty jacked.
Indeed. I bet he works out really,
Yeah.
I bet he works out a lot up here in Massachusetts, where he's from.
Yeah. This was kind of fun. I enjoy watching a wrestling oriented heel rough up a job guy with wrestling, so this is pretty entertaining for me.
Out of curiosity, have you watched next week's show yet?
No, I haven't.
Just wait.
Okay.
Just wait. Uh, uh, from here we got the Midnight Express with Jim Cornette versus young Jeff Young and Jackson Mike Jackson. Let's go to the intro of the show here, or the intro of the show, the intro of the match with Mr. Jim Cornette.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, it is now your privilege to see without doubt the most awesome tag team combination of all time. Still the Mid-South Tag Team Champions. Still the preeminent force to be reckoned with. Loverboy Dennis and beautiful Bobby, the Midnight Express.
Okay. Not not the scathing 2 minute promo we've had for the last few months with JC, but it did the trick, you know? Did the
He's
trick.
already he's already drawn the house for the Superdome.
Yeah. Like if there's anybody in New Orleans watching this and wasn't already going to the Superdome, they were not going to be convinced or not based on this show. You know?
Exactly, yeah.
I wonder what tickets were to the show. I bet the get-in price was like $10.
Yeah, if that, maybe even five.
Yeah. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised,
So,
especially like, doing 20 plus thousand people, like, they're not
yeah.
charging any. Take the WWE bottom line ticket price for WrestleMania this year and move the decimal point over 2 spots, and you're a lot closer
Yeah.
to the Superdome price.
So this here Midnight Express match. So Mike Jackson is one of the enhancement guys that Cornette will always point to as one that like the Midnight really liked working with because he could actually do some shit.
Yeah.
And you can tell here because Bobby started with Jeff Young, and you could tell Bobby was just leading him through some basics. And then Mike Jackson tagged in, and him and Bobby immediately did a fucking multi-phase high spot. And then Jeff Young tagged back in, and then they beat the shit out of him. And then Jackson tagged back in so he could take the finish.
This was a much nicer version of the British Bulldogs versus Les Thornton and Mick Foley match, where Thornton was in, had some really nice chain wrestling with Dynamite and Davey Boy, and then Mick tags in and they basically announce, ladies and gentlemen, the wrestling portion of this match has concluded. Please stay tuned for an ass kicking.
Yeah. You know what I watched the other night? I watched I guess it's about 20 years old now, the High Spots Midnight Express shoot. It was just Bobby and Dennis. And I don't know. I find Dennis really likable just because I guess it's his accent that like he could be one of my dad's friends, right?
Yep.
I don't know. I enjoyed that and kind of learned a lot.
See, my problem was with that is they didn't get Sweet Stan or, Ravenous Randy or Jack Victory in to tell us their thoughts about the Midnight Express.
Well, we got Dennis's firsthand recounting of the original Midnight Express angle, so that was pretty good.
Okay. But, we didn't get Jack Victory's thoughts on being a one night member of the Midnight Express. I just always
Uh,
loved that. I mean, I guess it's not what you make, it's what you save. But like that early 1989 when Jack Victory would be wrestling two or three times a show under different masks, it's like, why?
didn't he have like a
Just,
really, really unnecessarily long match with Michael Hayes on that same show?
yeah, it was like 20 minutes. He was Russian
Oh,
assassin number one or two.
painful. It was painful.
And well, I mean, it was George Scott. The entire goddamn run was painful. Then Flair Steamboat went 23 minutes, which, hey, was a perfect 23 minutes.
Yeah.
But you're telling me they couldn't have taken 5 minutes from Michael Hayes versus the Russian Invader. You couldn't have taken 5 minutes from Sting versus Butch Reed, which was another 20-minute match. And given that, so Flair and Steamboat got 30 minutes. And
What
then I think that
happened
was
to
to show.
George?
Go
I'm
ahead.
sorry. What happened to George Scott that he went from like the booker that guided Vince's expansion to like that terrible '89 WCW run?
As Bill Watts shows a few years later, it's like you can't take over as a booker if you haven't been paying attention to wrestling in years. And by all accounts, George Scott wasn't paying attention after he got fired from the WWF in '86. And he came back in '89, and I don't know, he must have got hit in the head or something because he didn't even think it was '86 anymore. He thought it was the '70s. I
There's
remember when I
one
was watching
thing. Go ahead and finish your thought. I'm sorry.
when I was watching that period of time, I'm like, thank God Flair feuded with Steamboat in '78, or Flair would be feuding with Paul Jones for the NWA title.
Oh God. Oh God. Yeah, the one thing that I believe with all my heart is that wrestling does not evolve backward, and it is folly to try to force it to.
Yes. And it's kind of why calling it wrestling the way it used to be and the way you like it on Smoky Mountain, like it's a nice catchphrase, but at the same time, it's also limiting because if it's wrestling the way people wanted it, you know, it wouldn't have been fault. It wouldn't. All these territories wouldn't have died as fast. Like, yeah, you can blame Vince because he did this and he did that, but if people wanted, you know, territory wrestling, it wouldn't have died off when it did, and it was always going to die off. Sorry, people. You know, it's the truth. You know, like
Yeah,
what?
with cable television, that the territory system was not going to survive cable television.
And also, like, I'll say this again: Starrcade '87. Vince did a hell of a job keeping him off pay-per-view, but no one forced Dusty to book the fucking show he did. You know?
Oh God, that Dusty finish in that Road Warriors match may be the single like worst decision that Dusty ever made.
Killed Chicago.
It
And
did.
yeah. And then it's like, you know, it's not even just like he put the title on Ron Garvin and Ron Garvin didn't deserve it. It's like it was so much easier. They could have flip-flopped Garvin and Wyndham. And I'm not saying Wyndham was a tippy-top main eventer, but he would have done a much better job. And the reason he didn't get it is because Dusty wanted to protect his protege from having a short world title reign to protect him for later on when he get a real world title reign. Well, the closest Barry Windham ever got to a real world title reign was a bullshit NWA title reign in '93.
That Garvin reign was not booked to get over.
No. And like it's funny because like like if you even if you go back and watch it and you watch like the weeks up to the title win and the title win were fucking great. That crowd lost their shit and threw babies in the air when Garvin won the world title. And then he came out on TV And I remember his first promo was so not Ron Garvin. Like they took everything likable about him and snatched it away. And then they announced, well, he's not going to defend the title until Starrcade. Why?
The
Why?
the babyface world champion is not
Yes.
going to defend
Like
the title until there's a fucking reason Flair got cheered in Chicago.
he did not have to wrestle Flair and beat Flair for the next 8 weeks. Tully, Arn. I guess you could have done Luger probably. You probably could have saved Luger. But I mean, there were plenty of heels that Ron Garvin could have gone in there and beat in world title matches that you could have been like, okay, look at this fighting champion. And you could have Flair take the time off. Hey, the houses were going to die anyway, the ratings were going to die anyway. But here's the thing: Flair is training for Starrcade, and Garvin, the fighting champion, is defending his title every night against top competition. And then comes Starrcade, Flair wins, and it's like, well, Garvin did just wrestle 60 times in the last 2 months, and Flair wrestled once. That might be why. Nope, can't have that. And that
No.
was also the week they determined that the Bunkhouse Stampede should not only be on pay-per-view, but in the Nassau Coliseum because they drew a good house the night before Starrcade in Nassau for a War Games match. Yeah, the night before Starrcade in Chicago, they were in Uniondale, Long Island, New York. And then the next day was a 4 o'clock show in Chicago.
I mean, I
Yeah,
guess in theory it was a good idea to do the. I don't know. Like you can
uh,
see where that looked like a good idea to them.
doing the Bunkhouse Stampede in Long Island or
Yeah.
booking a show the night before Starrcade in another time zone 1,000 miles
Uh,
away.
oh, that's not a big deal. They did that fucking every day.
Yeah, but part of the problem, and like you don't hear this a lot now, but if you go back and read observers, like there were a lot of no-shows on shows because they kept crisscrossing people across the country, and you're tempting fate, doing that constantly, trying to make shows. Um,
There's a
but
reason. There's a reason that Jim Crockett Promotions lasted less than a year after the time period we're discussing.
Yep. And I don't even know how the hell we got here, but um,
George
the,
Scott
Mid-
somehow.
the Midnight Express won with the middle rope power slam, whose name escapes me at the moment. I know they named it a couple of weeks ago, but I couldn't remember the name of it.
They named it and I immediately forgot it. I don't think I even wrote it down, which is very unlike me.
Terry Taylor versus John King. The code of honor was adhered to before the match. Last week, in front of this same audience, because they taped 2 shows and this was the second show, Terry Taylor got his ass kicked. So I was actually surprised he was out here for this match. Um,
Well,
John King did not break cleanly in the corner, thus breaking the clean scientific match we were having. Thank you, John King. And Taylor won with the 5 arm.
yeah, that's
I wrote
exactly what happened.
I
A
wrote that I'm
nice
starting
little
to Hmm?
finish your thought.
I wrote I'm starting to think this show may be skippable.
Oh, I mean, I enjoyed the wrestling. I enjoyed this. I like a babyface enhancement match. Just some good basic wrestling, and then you have King get a little bit rough, so that Taylor is justified in getting rough back, and then the guy you're pushing wins.
I mean, there was nothing wrong with the show, but it brought back a lot of memories of those Ernie Ladd shows where essentially, like in a lot of ways, it felt like nothing but standby matches. And mind you, we're about to have a good competitive match here in a minute, but in many ways, it felt like if you missed this show, you didn't miss anything. Um,
If you're watching for angles and promos, you didn't miss anything.
Hacksaw Butch Reed and Buddy Landell versus The Rock and Roll Express. Budrow now has a star on his right ass cheek. Um, I thought maybe it was like a Dallas Cowboys nod of the head, but who knows? Reed and Landale took a while to get going. We did get a botch spot early where Morton was covering Reed and Landale was supposed to elbow Reed when Morton moved, but Morton didn't move. So they basically ignored it and moved on with their lives. Now, Trey, I hope you're sitting down over there. They got the heat on Ricky Morton. Gasp.
Okay, honestly, this would be like the perfect match to show someone who's never seen a Rock and Roll Express match because they hit all the story notes. This area, this was a Lulu of a Rock and Roll Express match here.
Oh, that's going to be our new word on the show. It's real
Yes,
Lulu.
yes, it is.
So Jim Cornette came down and sat at ringside and took notes. Hey, why the hell not, right? Uh, Robert Gibson eventually got tired of his partner getting his ass kicked, so he broke down into a four-way. Jim Cornette, while in the midst of taking notes, Jim Cornette was stretching and he had his hands on the top rope. And I guess he must have slipped because he fell down and started yanking down the top rope at the same time that Robert Gibson just happened to be walking by, and Robert Gibson tumbled over the top rope and onto the floor. In the ring, Reed knocked Morton the fuck out, and Landell got the pin. I didn't even know. I didn't even take note of how Reed knocked Morton the fuck out, just that he did.
He hit him with a gimmick.
That sounds perfectly believable.
Yeah.
Like you
What
said,
a
this
what a
was
what a
like
series of
honestly,
unfortunate events.
yeah, like legitimately, if you know somebody who's never seen a Rock and Roll Express match, this is probably the best one to show them as the first match. Like it was a perfect little match. They've obviously had better matches, more memorable matches, but this would have been a nice introduction match to them, to
Yes,
people.
yes.
So then we got Jim Dugan versus the Russian Invader. And he's the Russian Invader because we didn't have time to give a backstory as to why Jerry Novak was now a Russian heel. Dugan won with a spear in what was essentially a loser must retire match.
This was a beefy little brawl for the 2 minutes it lasted.
This was big meaty men slapping meat.
It was.
Who doesn't love that? Thank you. Was it Big E that came up with that, or did somebody else
Uh,
term it and Big E stole it and
I
everyone just stole it
I
from
don't
Big
know.
E?
I know that Big E popularized it. I don't know if he came up with it originally or not.
It sounds like something he would make up,
Yeah.
but anyway, up next we have the weird ass team of Nikolai Volkov and Masayo Ito versus the Brothers Penis, George Weingroff
Mm-hmm.
and Lanny Poffo. Now, Trey, I gotta ask you this. Has
Okay.
anybody ever asked why Masayo Ito does the Bret Hart palms up pose in his intro? Now, obviously, this is before Bret Hart did it, but still,
Uh, is there like a? I'm trying to remember who trained Brett. It was two Japanese guys, and I can't.
it actually may have been Masayo Ito. Let's
Yeah.
see here.
Let me. Yeah.
Dear Google, dearask.com, please Google who trained Bret Hart. Let's see. And I swear, if it comes up saying Stu Hart, I'm going to punch Google in the face.
Okay, so
Let's.
it was Mr. Hito and Mr. Sakurada. So maybe there's
Yes,
I don't know, maybe there's some Mr. Hito lineage
Mr.
in
Ito.
Masao Ito. I don't know, maybe.
Yeah. Thankfully, Google did not tell us Stu Hart because I don't know how to go punch Google, but I would have tried.
Trying to
By the way,
remember
don't,
where I've looked this up before, and I gotta look it up again now. Okay, yeah, I'm not. Uh, Ito must have been he was wrestling before All Japan and New Japan existed, so I guess he was the JWA system. I don't know.
so who do you think was the real last student of the Hart Dungeon? Because, they called Jericho that in WWE, or not WWE, but ECW, and they've called Natalia that in WWE, and neither of whom were trained by Stu Hart in the dungeon.
Let's see. Who would have last been trained by Stu? I mean, I
Yeah.
don't know if anybody was really trained by Stu. Like, yeah, Brett was quote unquote trained in the dungeon, but like it was Hito and Sakurada that actually trained Brett to wrestle.
Yeah, why don't you let me put you in a hold?
Yeah, and that's
Sorry,
the thing.
sorry,
Let me,
my stew isn't that great. Sorry.
the, but that let me put you in a hold thing is really telling because I had never really thought about this till Adrian Street pointed it out. And Adrian Street is like an actual highly regarded badass, so I trust his word. But he
To
pointed
World
out that
Heavyweight Championship Wrestling. Our main
Sorry,
event.
1 second. Don't ask how that happened.
but anyway, according to Adrian Street pointed out, like Stu has this reputation as a shooter. Stu wasn't a shooter. That Stu was a hooker. If he could hook you in a hold if you let him put a hold on you, but Stu wasn't a shooter.
So what you're saying is don't let Stu Hart put you in a hold?
Yeah, it's a terrible idea.
Well, do you remember during Wrestling with Shadows that bald guy who let Stu put him in a hold?
Vaguely,
Uh,
vaguely.
and he's screaming his head off down in the dungeon. Speaking of Wrestling with Shadows, do you think Brett still has that electric chair dummy thing that he had?
I would like to
You
think
remember what I'm
so.
talking about?
Not
I mean,
really.
I guess if he moved to Hawaii and then did he ever actually move to Italy to be with his second wife, or did she just move somewhere here?
I don't know. I never heard of him moving to Italy.
I remember he married a woman from Italy, but I don't remember
Yeah,
who moved where. I mean, she probably moved somewhere here, and I know, like I said, Brett lived in Hawaii at least briefly, because that's kind of why his WWE appearances started amping up, because it's like, well, he's in the US and he's kind of bored, so what the hell? Um,
yeah. You know, Masao
so
Ito. So after this, he goes to Memphis. You see the name he wrestles under in Memphis? It's terrible, but I love it. The Oriental Connection. That makes no sense. How is a person? How is a person the Oriental Connection?
he's the first ever they them person. He's a trendsetter.
Surprisingly woke Masao Ito.
Yes. Oh Lord, is that really what they call him in Memphis?
That's what Cage Match says, and it was
And
Memphis,
Cage
so I believe it.
and Cage Match is more reliable than the always reliable Wikipedia.
Uh,
So Weingroff had Ito in the abdominal stretch, and who knows what else he was doing to him. So Volkov came in and pump kicked Weingroff, allowing Ito to win. I mean, when you have a penis as large as George Weingroff, when you put somebody in an abdominal stretch, I mean, you're close enough to the other person's rear end that some hanky panky may be going on there.
or you suggesting that somebody could have given Mr. Weingroff a reach around?
Oh no, I'm suggesting Mr. Weingroff was thrusting into Mr. Ito, not to be confused with
Oh.
Mr. Hito.
So yeah, that was this
Yes.
match. The only thing that this made me think of was like Volkov standing next to a Japanese guy singing the Soviet national anthem made me think of the time. I think it was probably on one of those WWF SWS shows that Volkov tries to do the Soviet national anthem deal for Heat in Japan, but the
They all,
Japanese are Japanese, so they just wait politely.
I totally believe that too. See, I'm just like trying to picture what Bill Watts' commentary for this match would have been, you know. Break out
Oh,
geopolitical Bill Watts here.
we deserved that here and we didn't get it.
We need a rematch in like 3 weeks whenever Watts comes back to commentary. Um,
Yes.
then we get our final match, Magnum TA versus Wish.com Harley Race. Um, tell me you didn't think that when you saw Bob Owens here.
Well, I didn't really think of that. I see it now that you mention it. My mind went to something else. I thought, well, is Bob related to Kevin? And then I thought probably not because Kevin is from St. Isidore, Quebec, and Bob is from Tuscaloosa, Alabama.
See, we don't know what Bob, who Bob may have slept with. I don't want to insinuate that Kevin's mom is a rat, but you don't know, what was going on
Oh,
in Alabama.
did Bob ever work the Montreal territory?
I honestly did not look up to Bob Owens' cage match too much. I did see that
Does he
Bob
have
Owens
one?
would. He does because he
Okay.
wins one match in 1984, and that's on December 29th in a Southeast Championship Wrestling show in Dothan, Alabama, where he wrestles as an assassin, teaming with A. Lord Humongous and the Arn Anderson to defeat Josh Stroud, Mr. Olympia, and Pork Chop Cash. 3 words. And
What
you
a
might notice that
team.
this yeah. You might notice this is not December 29th, and this is not Southeast Championship Wrestling, because TA wins with a belly-to-belly suplex.
Yeah, it was quick.
Yes. And the show ends with a music video about a recent Baton Rouge show, and then Boyd and JR talked about the 10th round of the television tournament for a medal and $10,000, which is next week.
Yeah, I like these videos. I wish we saw more of what was going on at the house shows. My restored version did not have the original music restored, and I was disappointed. Very rare miss there. But yeah,
I
the
don't I don't think I have the quote unquote restored version. I just have the whatever the Mid-South bulk torrent was, the original one.
yeah. Uh, so yeah, the Boyd Pearson Jim Ross closing thing. It's like I don't know. This Jim Cornette is upsetting everybody in the territory, and at this is the point that it dawned on me. I hadn't really thought about it in these terms, but Cornette is the top heel in the territory at this point.
He is. He definitely is. I mean, to be
Yeah,
honest, who's the top wrestling heel? I mean, it might be Mr. Wrestling, and that's not terribly great. It might be Nikolai Volkov, and that's not terribly great. Um, so I mean, they're not deep on great heel workers at the moment anyway. I mean, Butch Reed might be the best upper card heel they have right now, and Butch Reed right now is not in a position to be a top guy at the moment. I mean, but I think like especially
yeah,
because Reed's had a year of being in the top position that it's not going to take a whole lot to put him back in if they wanted to.
yeah. But he's not really been featured lately. Like since the
No,
Neidhart split, he hadn't done much.
no, he's been mostly teaming with Buddy Landell, and hey, I love Buddy Landell, but Buddy Landell not too long ago was a jobber on this show, so you know it's more of a step up for Buddy than it is even a step horizontally for Butch.
Things aren't deep, but
Uh,
they're not as shallow as they were.
yes. Hey, it's getting better, and we're gonna get, I don't know when he comes back, but I know DiBiase's coming back at some point. I know Dr. Death is gonna be here soon-ish, and he's at some point he's gonna turn heel, and at some point we're gonna have Duggan as, if not the top baby face, at least as a tippy top baby face. So it's, we're getting there. We're definitely getting there.
Yeah,
Um,
this,
hmm?
this was a show. It was a good wrestling show. If you just want to see some guys have some wrestling matches, if you want There wasn't a lot of like storyline progression or like promos or interviews, but this was an enjoyable enough wrestling show to watch for an hour.
So while I'm responding to boyfriend, because you just messaged me, good news, I rewound 3 seconds in world class, so we don't have to go without that 3 seconds. And we're going to play the intro of the show. So let's go to world class. The intro of the show is Bill Mercer.
Welcome to World Class Championship Wrestling. Our main event, we call it Mayhem, the six-man world title match. Featuring the Missing Link as we see him in action here against the Freebirds, and all the Freebirds, the champions, Hayes, Gordy, and Roberts, against the challengers, Kamala, the Missing Link, and Super D2. I'm Bill Mercer here at the Sportatorium in Dallas, Texas. Great to have you with us. What a main event filled with excitement. And we've got our first match. That features Johnny Mantell and Chick Donovan. Next on World Class Championship Wrestling.
All right, so we have one interesting motherfucking main event. Max, Stu, and Kamala versus the Freebirds for the six-man titles.
Match is shockingly good.
I don't know if I would say shockingly. I mean, I expect, with the talent of all six men, to have a quality six-man tag match.
Okay, if certain people in that match didn't feel like working that day, it could have been a rough time. But everybody felt like working today, and the results were very good.
That's true. All righty, and so let's, as spoiled there by Bill Mercer, the intro or the opener of the show, Johnny Mantell versus Chick Donovan. David Manning Von Erich is the referee here in this battle of two fine, upstanding gentlemen. And when you go into a match assuming it's going to be a time limit draw, you don't get terribly excited.
This was a rib on me.
What? Why? Well, I don't know if you like Chick Donovan, but I didn't think you didn't like Chick Donovan.
It's Chick. It's not that it's Chick Donovan. It's that it's Chick Donovan and Johnny Mantell doing 8 minute and 51-second 10-minute draw in a babyface match.
I always think about trying to keep track of the times, and I'm like, Trae does such a great job of it. For what it's worth, this felt like it went 10 minutes. I mean, at the very least, it's not like, in WCW, at one point, I remember they did Booker T versus Chris Benoit on a 10-minute time limit draw that went 6 minutes. Like, not even close. But like,
yeah,
for instance, like,
you're probably when they did that horrible fucking like Buff Bagwell against One a Chronic match that had to be a legitimate 10-minute draw. That really should have been like a 4-minute 10-minute draw.
Oh my God, I have no memory of that.
Oh, it was on like a Thunder or Nitro in 2000. I think it was Buff Bagwell. I think like Brian Adams.
Wait, time out. How the fuck did Vince Russo book a match that went 10 minutes?
That's the fucking thing of it. It was like so weird. There were all these short bad matches, and then there's this long bad match because to do whatever they were trying to accomplish, the match needed to be a time limit draw.
Okay then. Then WCW went out of business. Coincidence? I think not. Oh yeah, at Super Brawl 3, they do Two Cold Scorpio versus Chris Benoit in what was billed as a match that went, I think, 19 minutes and 59 seconds of a 20-minute time limit. So Scorpio pinned him with 1 second left, but it really went like only 16 minutes or something. But that's a case of a match that felt like it went 20 minutes. But
Yeah.
So Mercer alerts us that the next time the world-class cameras are out, they'll be recording a major event in Denton, Texas. I'll be honest, that kind of piqued my interest. I was curious about this major event in Denton, Texas.
Well, did you look into it? Did you find anything out about it?
Technically, no, because I watched the next week's show like right after, and next week's show they basically tell us it's a TV taping that's going to air in 2 weeks, 2 weeks from this week. So next week after next week.
Okay. So we're gonna get the TV taping from Denton. Okay, I have to
Yes.
blame my faulty memory for this. The Bryan Adams Buff Bagwell match was on the February 5th, 2001 Nitro, so that wouldn't have been with
Really?
Russo. And also, according to Cage Match, the match only went 5 minutes and 54 seconds. So I don't know
Well,
what happened with my memory there.
I still blame Johnny Ace for booking that one.
Yeah,
Evil power.
just on principle. Yeah.
Yes. Well, wasn't he the booker at the time?
I thought it was mostly like, wasn't it Sullivan still? Or didn't they go back to
No,
Sullivan during that little period in like early
no.
'01?
I I could be wrong, but I thought when Bischoff pretended to buy the company that Johnny Ace was made the booker.
I don't remember ever hearing that before.
I could be wrong. I remember I know he was there because he was putting together all the finishes and everything, but I honestly couldn't tell you who would be the quote unquote booker if not Johnny Ace, because I'm pretty sure it wasn't Kevin Sullivan, but I could be wrong. But
Somebody
anywho,
who knows more than we do, let us know.
anyway, Chick Donovan did a head scissors takeover, but the ensuing head scissors afterwards was so boring we had time for a full screen replay. That is not something
Yeah,
that they typically throw at us in World Class, is in-match full screen replays.
the head scissors was
So,
pretty neat though.
yeah, definitely. And the match went to a time limit draw. By the way, I saw that Johnny Mantell has a Facebook page, and I've thought about messaging him, asking him to be on the show, and I'm like, all it would take for him to listen to one show and be like, yeah, we would just we would either have to really blow smoke up his ass, which would get exposed very quickly, or uh we'd have to ask him, why did you do so many fucking 10-minute draws?
Oh, that would be the question, yeah.
We'd have him on for one question, not because he would hang up, but because we couldn't think of anything else to ask.
What's your most memorable 10-minute draw?
After, with a career record of 1 win, 0 losses, and 107 draws, what do you think about Chris Adams, the one person he beat? Didn't he beat Chris Adams last year, like in the middle of the Chris Adams half-ass push to the top and the middle of the Johnny Mantell 10-minute draw marathon? Like he randomly beat Chris Adams one week, I could swear.
That sounds like I have them going to two draws. Let me
Okay,
see.
maybe I'm just remembering
He
incorrectly.
beat somebody though. You're right.
Yeah,
He beat somebody.
it just feels like he beat Chris Adams. Turns out I may not be true. I may not be right. Much like you mistakenly thinking Buff Bagwell and Brian Adams went to a 10-minute draw, but 6 minutes with those two doesn't want definitely probably felt like 10 minutes. But
It was Buddy.
much.
It was
Mhm.
Buddy Roberts that Johnny Mantell randomly beat one week.
Okay, that's almost as bad. Actually, I'd say that's worse because you know, Buddy Roberts is one of the top three heels in the company.
Yeah.
So we got the capable Mike Reed versus Super Dunn. Not even
Not
a giggle.
not to be confused with Well Done.
Well, his graphics said Super Done.
Super Done. Okay. I
Yes.
didn't notice that. That's funny.
Um. So very shortly, oh yeah, to continue, I guess this is part of the Denton, Texas plug, because Bill Mercer tells us that very shortly a major event will feature the Garvin Adam continuation of their feud at the Super Pit at North Texas State University, which is a tremendous 10,000 seat arena. I just like
Hmm.
that there's an arena called the Super Pit.
Yeah, that's but it is now the University of North Texas. But yeah, apparently I think they said did Kevin play football there? And it's also
Mike,
where one Stone Cold Steve Austin played college football.
didn't like everybody play college football at North Texas State? Like there's like
Oh,
this running joke that like every
No, that was West Texas State, which is now West Texas
Oh,
A&M. That's in Amarillo.
all right. So never mind. I got my Texas State's universities backwards here. By the way, I don't know if Mike played football or not, but they said Mike is going to be returning there, so I kind of lumped him and Kevin together. But they'll be facing Hayes and Gordy at the Mean Green event. They came up with like a million ways to describe this show, and while that happened, Super Dunn won with the Superplex.
Yeah, that's all that happened. They talked about Denton, and there was a superplex.
All right. Um, so now we go to like the only time during the show that Trey and I are going to get to stop and breathe for a minute because we actually have an interview. Interview with General Skandar Akbar. Let's go to Ak right now.
And we talk with Skandar Akbar, the man, Devastation Incorporated's head man, in the World Class Championship Studios. We're in the studio, World Class Championship Wrestling, to talk to General Skandar Akbar, the man in charge of Devastation Incorporated. And I understand that you have a statement you'd like to make first, sir.
Well, it has come to my attention that the eighth wonder of the world, Andre the Giant, has signed to come back to World Class Wrestling. Well, I want everybody to know right now that the contingents of Devastation Incorporated, including Kamala, the Ugandan warrior, the Missing Link, the fabulous Super Destroyers, will be ready for Andre the Giant. And all the people must know there is no love lost between the Ugandan warrior Kamala, the most awesome man of all times, and Andre the Giant. They've met before, and this time, Andre, I won't be responsible for what Kamala does to you, because I intend to name Kamala the new eighth wonder of the world.
As I recall, it was your Devastation Incorporated crew that kind of took the brunt of the Giant the last time. He kind of cleaned house, didn't he?
Well, right now we have a new member, the Missing Link.
That's right. He
has no regard for his own well-being, much less anybody else. This man knows no pain. The Missing Link will become a most profitable asset to Devastation Incorporated, Mr. Mercer. So as I've said before, all contingents of Devastation Incorporated are ready for Andre. The list goes on and on. Not only Andre the Giant, the Iceman, the gentleman Chris Adams, the Von Erich family, the Freebirds, and of course the bad blood between Devastation Incorporated and the Freebirds is somewhat magnified in the last few months.
I understand, too, that coming up May 6th in a tremendous wrestling extravaganza at Texas Stadium,
yes.
that the Great Kabuki is coming back to meet your men.
Well, I don't want to talk about that right now.
Well, the Great Kabuki? Why can't you talk about it?
No comment, Mercer, no comment.
You're just going to leave it with that?
Exactly. Let me say one more time, the Devastation Incorporated is #1, the greatest organization of its kind in the history of this fine sport. I tolerate no losers. We've got an understanding that in Devastation Incorporated you must produce or you get your walking papers, and what more awesome individuals than Kamala, the Missing Link, and the American Tag Champions, the Super Destroyers. Let it be known that Devastation will rule world-class wrestling in the near future.
Who would you put up against Kabuki? Which one of those?
Let's not talk about Kabuki.
All right, very good. Thank you, Mr. Akbar. Skandar Akbar, the man. Devastation Incorporated, World Class Championship Wrestling continues in a moment.
I had to let it play just because it's the last bit of audio we're going to play on this week's show. So, first of all, fuck you, General Skandar Akbar. You're dead naming Max after he was the person that told us his name. Yes, it was on another show, 100 some odd miles east. It still counts.
The sign of the times, general decline of decency.
Maybe that should be the name of this week's episode.
Yeah, I like it.
General decline of decency. Especially, and it could mean a few things, like, that Terry Taylor match.
Mercer says later during the Kevin match that it will be Kabuki and Kamala at Parade of Champions, and boy, that's going to be a humdinger.
I hope that's on whatever version of this show we watch.
Me too.
Although, did you ever go back to try to find the full match between Prince Karis and Tim Horner?
I haven't yet. It's probably on the commercial release, which I have. I just haven't had time to watch it yet.
It probably is. I mean, to be honest, I doubt we missed anything from that match.
Oh God, we're gonna
Uh,
talk about it. We're gonna talk about it on Thursday. But the fucking segment where whatever Daryl Van Horn is like narrating and they're showing clips of that terrible fucking match. Oh my God.
yes, 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 yes. Oh, we're gonna have fun with that segment. Um,
Yes.
but by the way, Kabuki returns, and I'll be honest, I'd forgotten that Kabuki and Akbar, or that Kabuki was actually feuding with Akbar's guys the last time he was here, because that's when he was being managed by Arman Hussein. And speaking of which, whatever the hell happened to Arman Hussein?
I don't know. I don't even like. I don't. I think Kabuki had already left the territory when I got here.
Okay, yeah. It was around that time because I know he was here till like June or so, but he may have like his last show may have been right before you started.
I may have
But
seen him like once. I don't,
yeah. So we get told that aerobatic Kevin Von Erich is next. The definition of aerobatic is the performance of stunts while in flight in an aircraft. That is not what Kevin Von Erich was doing here.
We had the exact same train of thought because I learned a new word because I also had to look up aerobatic.
So from Canada, Kelly Kiniski versus high flying Kevin Von Erich. I will never get over the fact that they write high, H-I, flying Kevin Von Erich. Um,
Well,
Kelly Kiniski has apparently turned heel. When the hell did he do that?
I was so confused. Like he came in as a babyface and then he's been a little bit more of an asshole every week, but like is he a heel now and we just missed it? Did he turn heel on the Fort Worth show that allegedly exists?
Probably, or did like Gene tell him to yell at the fans? I don't know. But notice they haven't brought Gene back to cut any more thrilling promos. Uh,
Uh
but
yeah.
so we
So
find out
this
here that. So go ahead.
I was just gonna say this match filled TV time, and then yeah, this is
Yeah,
where we find
yeah.
out that go on, Carrie.
Harry is the chosen one and will challenge Ric Flair for the world's heavyweight title at the Inhale David Von Erich Memorial Parade of Champions. Kelly is going bald, I noticed. Um,
Do
poor,
you think
poor Kelly Kineski.
do you think that Kevin resented that as like a shoot?
That Kelly Kineski was going bald.
No, that it was Carrie.
Oh,
Like, is that why he
I think
wouldn't?
I
Is that why he demanded like 3 grand to do a Carrie memorial show in '93? Because I mean, carrying resentment
um
over this.
maybe I don't know if resentment is the right word. I think like he was probably happy for Carrie, but at the same time, he also knows that he wouldn't have been as big of a fuck up as Carrie was, you know, because like you always
Yeah,
you hear everything about Carrie and whatever David did or didn't do, but um you don't honestly Kevin's crap you don't hear much until like the end of the world class era in like 88, 89 when he starts no showing all the time. That's really the first that you ever hear of Kevin being a bit of a fuck up.
yeah. I don't know. Maybe since it was only gonna be 18 days, the, like that's because if it's Carrie, that's all you're gonna do.
Yeah. I'll be honest, and I asked Dave and Jim Cornette this question, and they both kind of ignored me. But I thought about this while reading the Ric Flair book. When Flair beat Dusty for the world title, he took over Dusty's bookings on shows that had been advertised for Dusty defending the world title. Did these crowds, were they given the chance to go get a refund? Was there any kind of a protest, especially like shows in like the Midwest? I think his first match was in like Iowa or something. Like how much, you know, how much exposure had Ric Flair had in Iowa?
I don't know if there were protests. I do know that the world champion schedule was the world's champion schedule. So if Dusty
Yeah.
Rhodes is the world champion, he is on the world's champion schedule. If he loses the title to Ric Flair on Wednesday, starting on Thursday, Ric Flair is on the world champion schedule. And I think just based on what I've seen from watching these territories, I think it was just kind of understood that if the world champion was coming to town and the world title happened to change hands, that was just a thing that might happen.
Yeah. Well, I'll be honest, I'm not sure how I would have taken it. Like I know this isn't quite the same thing. But when I went to a SmackDown in 2005 in Hershey, Pennsylvania, it was during the WWE draft when they were doing the month-long draft. And I'd been to a Raw the month before, and SmackDown was coming up, and I was looking forward to seeing specifically John Cena and Kurt Angle. Well, who were the first two people drafted to Raw before that episode of SmackDown? John Cena and Kurt Angle. And, you know, it was like, oh well, kind of thing. And I got
Yeah,
Chris Ben I got a Chris Benoit match against I think Doug Basham, and hey, Chris Benoit was great. And I got a Randy Orton run in when he was coming back from his shoulder surgery.
that's cool. Yeah,
So
I think it's been a long time since anybody really cared about
yeah,
what they were advertising versus what they were gonna do. Especially
yeah.
with especially with Vince.
Oh, I mean, definitely. By the way, you know what we should do for this for either next week's Mid South / World Class or Smoky Mountain? We should
What?
do a WrestleMania prediction
Okay.
segment
Okay.
since it's airing
That'll be
after
fun.
WrestleMania. Just,
I know
just
I know hardly any of the storylines, so that'll be fun.
the funny thing is, I am going. I'm spending thousands of dollars to go to WrestleMania. I have not watched a single minute of WWE programming since Elimination Chamber.
Well, you'll probably enjoy it more then.
Possibly, possibly. Um. Anyway, back to Kelly Kiniski versus high flying Kevin Von Erich. Kevin got the claw on, but Kelly got out of it by sending Kevin out of the ring. Kevin used a bottom rope drop kick, which was different. I've never seen anybody jump off the bottom rope before like that, unless it was like a comedy spot. But this was not a comedy spot.
Uh,
That was different and like different in a good way. Um,
yeah, it
Kelly
was.
Kelly won with a backbreaker because Bronco Lubick is the worst referee ever and didn't see Kevin's foot on the rope. So after he'd already counted three, Bronco stopped, saw Kevin's foot on the rope, and waved it off. But Kelly didn't get the memo, and Kevin won with a drop kick to the back. I hate to say this, but Kelly Kiniski has a very valid gripe.
Anybody who has a gripe with the refereeing in this territory probably has a point.
Yeah. Other than that, like I thought this was a good match. I'm still not a Kelly Kiniski fan, but between here and actually no, I don't think he goes to Mid South. Maybe no, maybe he does. Anyway, we're gonna see Kelly Kiniski a lot for the next 2 years, so hopefully he at least becomes a adequate professional wrestler. In addition to being a really nice guy who uh, is the reason why people were pissed off. He did go to Mid South because people were pissed off that he got cut to bring in Sting and Warrior.
Yeah, I mean he's not terrible. He's just like plain toast.
He's not going to be a main event draw.
No.
Honestly, and I know this sounds like torture, I'd put him in a tag team with Johnny Mantell.
Uh, yeah.
I-
For
make
whatever
them make them an undercard tag team, Somebody has to lose to, you know, upper card tag teams.
Are they heels or baby faces?
I mean, I think especially with in that position that I'm slotting them as, you can have them against either. I mean, I hate to just call them out and out jobbers, but Johnny Mantell and Kelly Kiniski right now are not even really upper mid card guys. So it's like they can be used in either position, give depending on the week.
Yeah, and about a few months from now, it would have been them losing to the Midnight Express.
Yeah, exactly. They could be losing to Akbar's two men of the week. They could be losing to the Freebirds. They could be, you know, anybody. They could bring in Butch Reed and Buddy Landell one week and have them beat them.
Yeah.
So then we get our main event, which is six-man tag team champions, the Freebirds, as I wrote, with some guy in a white polo shirt versus Max, Kamala, and Super Destroyer number 2 with General Skandar Akbar and Fry. Yay! I I legitimately had no idea why there was a guy in a white polo shirt standing behind the Freebirds during the
I
intro.
didn't even notice them.
Well, turns out there was some guy in a white polo shirt in the Devastation Incorporated corner too, but the Freebirds, some guy in a white polo shirt waved him away. So I think they were just the ring attendants.
Yeah, probably security.
This was a tremendous scumbag brawl. The Birds played subtle babyface, but it was quite subtle. Both teams were barely following the rules. Emphasis on barely. Um, Max was getting incredibly upset by these out and out violations of the agreed upon rules of combat that he began pulling on his own hair at one point. Maybe, maybe his problem, because I'm going to get personal here, maybe he's got wicked bad anxiety. Because when I was going through my depression, when I would get really anxious, I'd start pulling on my hair. And it was like
Yeah.
the tip to other people that Arya is not doing well right now. So maybe that's what's happening. Maybe Max is suffering from anxiety and is trying to tip it off to
Oh,
people.
poor Max.
I know, right? A six-way breaks out, and Hayes goes after Two's mask, but Akbar punched him in the back of the head. Max then accidentally gave Two a diving headbutt, and Hayes covered for the pin. I honestly went into this match figuring that if there was a finish, Two was in this match purely to do the job. And sure
Yeah.
enough, he was.
I 3 stars. I thought this was a hell of a fun little tag match.
Oh, definitely. I'd say this is our quarterly 3-star match, but typically that happens on Smoky Mountain.
We get one it was about once a month on World Class, and they've kind of spread out more, but we do get them occasionally on World Class.
Yeah. Next week, Kelly Kiniski and Buddy Roberts are going to wrestle Kevin and Mike with a tremendous amount of action to follow, according to Bill Mercer. Spoiler alert, the tremendous amount of action will actually precede that match, not follow it.
Damn it,
And that's
Bill.
not just and that's not me being like a smartass and saying like whatever matches follow it sucked. It's me saying that that was the main event.
Supposed to be a respected journalist, Bill Mercer.
I've lost all respect for Bill. I used to believe in stuff. Now I don't
Really?
anymore.
It's hard to believe in stuff.
So neither of these shows were bad. Neither of these shows were
No.
offensive. Like I just
No.
watched 4 hours of TNA weekly pay-per-views from 2003, and both of those shows had better matches than pretty much every match on these two shows put together. However, those two shows sucked, and you'll get to listen to me rant about them tomorrow and next week. But I still can't believe that Raven Jarrett match drew like it did. It's it's sad.
I like I said when we were chatting earlier, like I remember like, this time period. And I don't know, I guess I was just 15 and dumb, but I think in my head it was like, okay, Raven's gonna win the title, and then TNA is going to uh, move away from these Jarrett focused storylines, and then this promotion that has so much potential is finally going to be off to the races. And
Yep.
that was probably the dumbest thing I ever thought, other than the time that, like, the first few weeks when Brodus Clay was working with Christian, and I thought he was going to be the second coming of Bader, but it turns out he was just wrestling Christian.
Um, or like when I thought that now that Damien Sandow lost his Money in the Bank cash in, he was going to get pushed as a bigger star and really take off. I was wrong.
Oh,
I,
you know what?
I I had solid logic. I kind of like because like he had that facial expression after the match that was like, oh my God, they're doing this story. They're doing a gimmick where he's gonna lose his fucking mind. And he's gonna go like hardcore heel, like based off losing this Money in the Bank cash in, where like he goes from being honestly the Damien Sandow gimmick, even before he became the impression guy, it was always a bit comedic. But I'm like, oh my God, this is gonna be where he goes serious heel and he's gonna like be a fucking badass. And I was really, 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 really wrong.
Yeah, I do have to say, Rhodes Scholars was a really choice tag team name for that team.
It was. It really was. And it's like they could have been like I'm not saying oh Cody was going to be world champion based off being the member of Team Road Scholars, but like in a world with a good tag team division, that would have been a really good addition to it. But at that point, it was Team Hell No. It was whatever two-thirds of the Shield were teaming up on that particular episode, and them. Like, I mean, they did have a number of quality undercard tag teams, but it's like they were not pushing the tag team division at all at the time. Because you had the
I
Colons, I think you had Cesaro and Tyson Kidd at that point. You had the Usos, you know. So it's like you had the makings of a decent tag team division, just that they didn't do anything with them.
I remember wanting them to win the titles from Team Hell No. Like, what, I think it was like a Royal Rumble that they wrestled for the titles, but they lost.
I think they wrestled in like two or three pay-per-views for the tag titles.
Oh,
Because like that
maybe.
was when that yeah, that was when the Shield was a thing, but before they decided to put the tag belts on them.
It
Was
was
it
the
It was Seth
period
and Roman.
that was the period that I was not watching a whole lot.
I don't blame you. Especially like that string of pay-per-views right in a row where it's like
Yeah.
the Randy Orton Daniel Bryan storyline that like hey, it worked out great because Daniel Bryan ended up being super over through no thanks of that. But yeah, those pay-per-views like the Battleground show that like the power went out before the main event and it was like that was the best part of the show. And then it came back on for Randy Orton versus Daniel Bryan, which ended. Oh, by the way, that was when the title was held in abeyance. Gotta sneak in that word anytime we can. That was the match that ended with Big Show walking around, punching both men in the face, and the show just ending.
Incredibly, Vacant in his many WWE Championship reigns actually has two successful title defenses.
What was the other one?
Taker and Kane won at Judgment Day '98.
Oh, yep. That was a good that was a good reign for Vacant.
Yeah.
So I don't know which one was I guess that one the 98 one was probably a little longer because while they both spanned two pay-per-views, in 98 it was 2 months apart. In
Yeah.
2013 it was like 6 weeks apart.
Yeah.
So anyway, so now that we have gone longer than an hour. We've gone close to like an hour, 15 minutes. But I don't know about you, but I think now's a good time to call it quits for the day.
You mean call it quits before we hang up and I go watch Collision and then we reconvene in 2 hours to record the Smoky Mountain show?
It's 3 hours, unless Collision's only 1 hour tonight. But
Well,
yes.
at 2 hours of Collision, but yeah, we've got about. We'll be back for you. Arya and I will be back in 2 days. For Arya and I, we'll be back together in 2 hours and 45 minutes.
And that's if Collision goes off the air at 10 o'clock. So, I
Yeah.
mean, come on. Anyway, we'll talk to you later. Thank you all for listening. Listen to the Oh My God cast. Oh My God cast, by the way. And take care. Have a great rest of your day. Talk to you later.
Bye.